Hello, everyone. My name's Freddie, and my pamphlet is somewhat of a critique on the U.S. education system through the lens of perennialism. I'd like you to imagine a plant, a maple sapling to be specific. It's sprouted from a healthy seed and grows strong. It has everything it could possibly need: fertile soil, plenty of rain and sun, allowing for productive photosynthesis, and plenty of plant neighbors in a vibrant woodland community. But there's a catch. Each and every day, this small sapling is uprooted from the earth and replanted somewhere else, entirely new, alien, and different. And while this new home still has bountiful nutrients and plenty of sun and water, there is no way for the sapling to develop a stable foundation and root system to grow upon. Eventually, the caretaker of this young tree becomes impatient with its inability to grow. They begin pouring harsh, toxic fertilizers into the soil in hopes of jump-starting the poor tree. They prune all branches and limbs that show even the slightest sign of brown on the leaves. Of course, this has the opposite of the intended effect. The last of the poor sapling's leaves begin to shrivel and dry. The already struggling root system, burned from the overload of harsh chemical fertilizers, is no longer able to provide the branches and leaves with the proper nutrients. The sapling is wilting at an even faster rate now, and yet still, without fail, it is lifted from its home and it has gotten to know for a minuscule 24 hours and been placed somewhere completely foreign. Eventually, the last of the once baby green leaves floats to the ground, the remaining branches stiffen and crack, and the innocent and eager sapling becomes lifeless. While this may seem like a dramatic or exaggerated analogy, it describes almost perfectly the experience of millions of students in modern-day classrooms. Just as the poor sapling above is ripped from its earthly home day after day, students are ripped from their shallow understandings of complex topics covered in less than an hour. An hour! Think about how long it takes for a tree to settle its roots into the ground. How can we expect the human brain to sink its roots into alien material in less than an hour and then be able to move on and learn something completely new the next day? Picture a room full of students eager and motivated to learn, vigorously scratching out notes in an attempt to keep up with the teacher who, in the same vein, is attempting to keep their class on the rails of a supersonic curriculum. This is a common experience, particularly in the world of STEM. Even students who are motivated to jump through the hoops of fast-paced learning often find themselves 10 minutes behind their teachers and racing to get down the contents of the blackboard before it's all swiped away. How can they and their less motivated classmates soak in this constant barrage of new information while they scribble down formulas with no real understanding of what they mean or refer to? The game of homework becomes the work of decoding scribbled example problems and definitions that they barely manage to get down, while pleading with their brains to retrieve the jumbled memory of steps the teacher had demonstrated in class. Then comes the exam. Many students struggle with the pressure of time testing, yet another planned and intended byproduct of a rushed education. Not only do students have to rush to get a hold of their understanding, they also have to rush to show their understanding. And of course, if you can't work at the speed of sound and the test comes to an end before you even had the chance to look at all the problems, then you must have not have understood the material, or so the assumption is made. And it would be comical if it weren't so painful to the test takers. The frustrating and demoralizing part of this testing system is the privileges given to students who need extra time. Just because you can't empty the contents of half a semester of understanding into a single class exam doesn't mean there is something wrong with your brain. We don't need excuses from doctors. We need learning that lets us grow like saplings. It's nothing less than tragic to think of how many beautiful minds have been kept out of certain fields because they couldn't successfully rush through a test. Two simple truths arise from the above observations. First, modern education favors a very specific type of brain that can take in information quickly for the purpose of spitting it back out on a test a few weeks later. Second, and much like the sapling that began the story, students and humans in general are not equipped with this type of brain. But even if they were, why should learning, which is certainly a type of growth akin to the growth of a sapling, be something that is rushed? Furthermore, is it even possible to rush learning, or does that simply lead to misunderstanding? The experience of far too many students and teachers certainly point to the latter. And who decided that linearly designed curricula were the right way to teach? Linear curricula completely disregard the fundamental function of the brain in receiving, processing, storing, and retrieving information. It is no wonder that students forget the skills they learned throughout the school year when they were acquired in less time than they actually spent in class. To an observer unaccustomed to such a system of education, this would likely describe an unhealthy, ineffective, and stressful, and even toxic way to grow the next generation and equip it for success. What might the observer offer as alternatives? To begin, they would recommend doing away with the one-and-done approach to introducing new material, where students learn one piece of material and then another and another in a linear sequence, leading to a final test, which requires students to relearn earlier parts of the sequence. Of course, relearning is used ironically here, since if students really learn the parts of the sequence, there would be no need to relearn the material. Wouldn't it be better for learning and the learner to restructure curricula in favor of allowing assignments and problems to build upon one another in a way that incorporates all the skills learned throughout the semester in each assignment? It is important to understand that this system is not the same as simply combining problems from different chapters of the textbook in one assignment. While that could still prove helpful, it is usually more beneficial to weave together several different learned skills into one problem, demonstrating how they relate to one another and thereby deepening the understanding of their use. An important aspect of this approach requires actively slowing down the process of learning. To truly sink its roots into a subject, the sapling-like brain of a young person requires repetition, variety, and interconnection. Most importantly, it requires time. By spreading out the exposure of new material in the curriculum, students are allowed and encouraged to spend more time uncovering any confusion and deepening their understanding. Applying new skills to real-world situations or relating new learning to past material helps develop more neural pathways and allows the education process to escape the vacuum that so often starves it of oxygen. Learning is akin to growing, and neither can be rushed without damaging the deep natural processes that have governed learning and growing from the start. And since there is no way to speed up time without some negative consequences, there is also no way to speed up learning without some negative consequences. Another benefit to slowing down learning is that it helps alleviate the pressure related to falling behind and the stress it produces. In what world does someone work best when they are put under time pressure that is not calibrated to the problem being solved? It is significantly less stressful for students to relax and take the time needed to make certain that they have uncovered all their misunderstanding when they aren't racing to finish. They aren't meant to feel that they lost a race, and they develop problem-solving skills that will serve them well into their future. Our elders know these lessons well. They know that some, maybe most learning takes a lifetime. Lifelong learning was the norm for them, not the exception. What happened? Today's students are resigned to seeing learning as a chore to be completed as quickly and efficiently as possible so they can graduate and celebrate their freedom from learning this way. If we were honest about it, many of us would admit to a sense of relief at finishing our education. That should raise red flags for educators, parents, employers, and students who sense that this is not the best way to learn. Let's demand learning that excites rather than demoralizes, that is calming, not stressful, that applies to the actual world rather than disconnecting us from it. When all those aspects come together, I am certain students will learn to love learning and want to continue beyond the classroom walls and laboratory benches. Let's change the schoolhouse narrative and broaden and deepen its perspective. If you struggle to learn course material, not necessarily because the material is too challenging, but because the pace of the course is too fast, make your experience heard. Don't automatically ask for accommodations to succeed in a learning system that is broken and inherently harmful to learners. Demand change. Nearly everyone can learn anything with time, the desire to learn, and the mentoring of those who teach for understanding and joy, not test scores and speed trials. Learning is a long, magnificent journey, not a bleak, breakneck race to understanding. Stop uprooting your brain. Let it take root, grow, and learn at a creaturely pace as it was meant to do and to be. Thank you.